when it comes to Michael Gallup, the dream scenario of him being ready by the end of camp in time for week 1, that's been ruled out. Jerry Jones said realistically he hopes Gallup is a question mark around week 1. And if he's not being more optimistic than that, I don't know how long Gallup could be out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to rule out missing an entire month or maybe even more. It kind of depends on how the healing process goes. Stephen went as far as to say, I don't know if you caught this from Stephen's like 30 or 40-minute session, that the James Washington signing, the Gallup injury, it was a big reason for why they did that.
Yeah.
So instead of looking at your receiving trio of Lamb, Gallup, and Washington right now, you almost have to look at it as a duo because you're not sure if the absence of Gallup would totally deep six your receiving core. I don't like that receiving core with Washington and Lamb. No. I think at that point you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
So how does that change your draft plans knowing that Gallup back week 1 is pretty much all but ruled out? I'd love to know what your sources are telling you about this story, Brian.
Yeah, the thing about it is, you know, and I apologize. I missed that yesterday with Stephen Jones talking about it because, you know, he said, hey, he's liable to miss, you know, the first 2 games. And so I reached out to some folks there. And I said, hey, is there some validity here? And it was, you know, absolutely. He said, yeah, we'll likely miss that. Yes. Maybe the start of the season on PUP and decide at the final cuts where they're at. And I just know the guys like, you know, I know that Gallup, Britt Brown, those guys, they'll work hard. I mean, they'll do all they can. They'll have a plan. I mean, they've always had a plan for these guys with these knee injuries, you know, how to work through training camp, get them ready, and then, you know, have them play for the games. But yeah, I think that if you're the Cowboys, you have to now. I think that it was even the wide receiver room made me even believe that, yes, you're going to have to look for a receiver regardless. You know, I kind of saw the Washington signing of if we had a better one, we just move on from him. We don't, you know, if say somebody comes along, maybe they draft a guy early and then they get another one in the 6th round or something, or they get one of these, you know, these post-draft free agents that come in and play really, really well. Yeah,
not a lot to make the team.
Yeah,
James
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. I'm not keeping him. He's not keeping me from signing somebody. He's kind of a guy that's going to hold a spot until I figure out what's going on at wide receiver. But we just went through Machota's mock draft and stuff like that, and we were kind of talking about these receivers. But and John took one in the 2nd round with John Mitchie. You know, I'm totally on board where John took that player. But again, you're getting a guy that's coming off his own knee injury, but is a super, super quality of a player.
Yeah, you know, to me, I think 2nd round would be a little bit too high. I think, you know, I want them to take a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, still in the top 100. I think you could get a guy there. I want the first 2 to go on interior linemen. But if you go wide receiver in the 2nd round, considering this news, I no longer think that would be a mistake because you have to assure yourself that you're going to have quality. And I don't think Washington is the kind of guy that can run a real route tree and can be a great complement to CeeDee Lamb. He's a big-time athletic playmaker. And so is CeeDee Lamb. You know, I think you need more of the tactician type of wide receiver that Amari Cooper is. 214 says Gallup should be pretty deep into his recovery and strengthening that ACL. I'm not sure why Steven said that, but maybe there is something else up. Yeah, he took a month off after the injury, which was like January 7th, right? He took a month off to let the inflammation die down. Yeah, and you know, there's different approaches to that, but he didn't have the surgery until February. Yeah, I don't know if it's depending who you are, a 6, 7, 8 month, 9 month types of recoveries from an ACL is not unheard of.
Right.
So at 9 months, you would be missing 2 months of the season. And I don't know, truckwreck.com fan text, you can't go into this season with this wide receiver group.
No.
And if there is a chance that you're going to miss half of it, I mean, the offense needs deep threats, and Washington's a nice one. It's one of the best things that Dak does. I'm not mad at Dak or Washington or anything. I just think the receivers have to complement each other, Brian.
No, you're absolutely right. And, you know, the thing that you don't want to do is, and maybe you already have, you know, with the Gallup injury and then, you know, moving on from Cooper, you know, you've weakened that room for sure. And so the plan had better be, you know, adding one of these these college receivers. And you know, I think if they can add one, and I like, you know, what you were talking about, the third, fourth round guy. I understand it's a position that actually stretches.
Yeah,
it does. But I kind of look at, you know, my second round guys that I've got on my board. I kind of look at them as
guys.
Yeah, like they could be really close to being potential first round guys. So to me, if I could grab one of those guys at 56, I would be more likely to say I got. You know, we always use this word. Oh, I got great value. I think you would get potentially another first round player at 56 at that wide receiver in that for that room.
I think you just sold me on that with that idea that you could get maybe somebody better than Lamb in the second round.
Well, that's, you know, the whole thing. There's a lot of pressure on Lamb. There's a lot of pressure on Lamb, and because they've got to determine.
Got 88 on.
Yeah,
come on.
Well, yeah. Absolutely. But they've got to determine, you know, going forward, is he a guy that's going to get an extension? You know, I mean, that's it's funny. Guy has 1,100 yards, and we're kind of questioning him about a receiver, but I think the expectations for him were so high coming into his career and then we see some of these others where it's, you know, Chase and Jefferson, those guys that have, you know, come and just done tremendous things. You know, he needs to kind of put himself in that kind of talk as well.
Yeah, you know, I think if he gets an extension at this point, he's on track more for a Gallup extension than a Devontae Adams or something like that, and not even an Amari.
Well,
Cooper
you would hope.
deal.
You would hope that maybe it does turn into an Adams type thing, but we might be in a situation too, General. And you said this a couple of days ago, talking about these positions. So there's certain ones you're just not going to pay these guys at anymore. Are you going to not pay the quarterbacks? Or you're not going to pay wide receiver? You know, I mean, just the way things are. You're just, you know, does all that allocations of funds keep you from building the team like you need to?